Thursday, December 19th. I got ahead of myself. We're not into the 20s yet. It's December 19th, 2024. Christmas is already like 6 days away. I can't rush it. I got gifts to buy. Welcome in, everybody, to today's edition of The Lunch Break, KDUS AM 1060. We appreciate you joining us here on this Thursday edition of the program. 480-864-1060 is the phone number for you to join us on your lunch break during our lunch break. We've got some Cardinals to get into, an injury that could make an impact. We're going to discuss whether or not this Cardinals game against the Panthers on Sunday is a trap game, but we have to start. Where do we always start on this show? We start with the basketball team in town. That's right, because the Suns are today's Daily Special.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
Yeah, I know. You probably don't like that they're the Daily Special. I usually don't like that they're the Daily Special, but the Phoenix Suns are today's Daily Special because they're back in action tonight. They get back on the floor. 2 very winnable games coming up for them before a tough stretch to end the year. And that gets underway tonight when they take on the Indiana Pacers. 2 very winnable home games, hosting 2 teams that are below 500 in Indiana and Detroit. They are technically playoff teams in the Eastern Conference playoff structure, but still teams with a below 500 record. And these are not top-tier teams in the NBA that the Suns will be facing. And we have already seen how this team has done this season, also recently, against lesser opponents. They are coming off of a 2-game winning streak where they took care of Utah, they took care of Portland. They have shown that they can take care of these bad teams when they draw them on the schedule. Because after this, after they play Indiana, after they play Detroit, I believe that game's on Saturday, this is what their schedule looks like after those 2 games. They're going to play 2 straight against the 5th-seeded Denver Nuggets, including one of those games being on Christmas. They're then going to follow that up with 4-seeded Dallas. And then they have Golden State and the 2-seed in the West, Memphis, to close up the year. So after this little 2-game stretch, it's Denver for 2 straight, Dallas, Golden State, Memphis. That is a gauntlet to end the season or to end the year. It is a gauntlet of Western Conference opponents that you are facing, teams that are directly above you in the standings in the case of Denver, Dallas, and Memphis. Teams that you will be facing off in the postseason. And so you got to make up ground on these teams when you play the Indianas, the Detroits of the world. So this team has to take care of business against teams like Indiana and Detroit. They have to go into those 2 matchups against Denver riding a 4-game winning streak. It is not going to change our declaration. We are very firm in where we feel about this team. I believe that was on December 16th. Proclamation was made. It was written down into the history books. I believe this team is a first-round exit in the postseason this year. I have seen nothing that has changed my mind with the way last year finished up for this basketball team. But if they want to get on a path for us to scratch out that declaration and start a new declaration, I don't want to say beating Indiana and Detroit goes a long way to doing that, but you certainly will help your case by doing that. You will only further reinforce our position if you somehow stumble in these 2 games. This team has got to cut through all the noise about trading for Jimmy Butler. They have to cut through all the noise about the daily conversation we have about who's hurt. It feels like every single day on this program, we talk about somebody being injured for the Phoenix Suns or somebody being close to a return for the Phoenix Suns. We are constantly talking about injury reports, reevaluations, injuries. One could argue this becomes a medical show for 2 hours when we talk about the Phoenix Suns. That has to be pushed to the side. This team, even with Bradley Beal sidelined right now, this team, too talented. And Bradley Beal might come back tonight, but this team is too talented to drop games like this. They cannot fall to the Indianas and Detroits of the world. Because if they're going to make up the ground that they conceded, they started the year great. Started the year as one of the top 2 teams in the Western Conference. We were singing the praises. The story of redemption was fully on the table for this team. They were exceeding everything that we thought about this team at the start of the year. And then the first injury hit to Kevin Durant. And then Bradley Beal got hurt. And it all came crumbling down. And so that good grace, that lead that they kind of built in the Western Conference power structure over, what was that, the first 10 or 11 games, completely evaporated. It was gone. It's a distant memory at this point. That start to the year feels like it was 5 years ago because of what this team has gone through just in the last month or so. And so now they find themselves middle of the road in the Western Conference. That nice cushion that they gave themselves at the beginning completely erased. They now have to crawl back into the top tier of the Western Conference. They have to crawl their way back up the standings, past Denver, past Memphis, past Golden State, Oklahoma City. All these teams that are in front of them, they have to crawl their way. They have to claw their way back up the ladder. The way you do that, you take care of business against the teams you're supposed to take care of business against. If Bradley Beal doesn't play tonight, I don't care. I want to see the same thing we saw against Utah, the same thing we saw against Portland. This team needs to stack up some W's right now because let's face it, I would be pleasantly shocked if they ran through Denver, Dallas, Golden State, and Memphis and didn't drop a couple. If they were able to beat Indiana, beat Detroit, and then continue on a really good-sized run against those teams, that makes us reevaluate that declaration a little bit. We may start to erase a couple letters in the book. But until they do that, your motto is simple. Take care of the games you're supposed to take care of. Beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. Don't play down to the competition. Don't play close competitive games in the fourth quarter. You've got Kevin Durant. You've got Devin Booker. You're an extremely talented team. Take care of business. Beat Indiana. Beat Detroit. I don't want to have to come in here tomorrow and open up the show on what's a Football Friday. Producer Corey's been here all week. The last thing Producer Corey wants to deal with tomorrow on a Friday. It's the last day of the week. It's our last show of, no, it is not our last show of the year. We're going to sneak one in on the 31st. We are out all next week. No shows for us. We're doing a lot of social media content, so I will be sharing the takes on our social media platforms. But no shows next week. Producer Corey does not want, I can promise you, I'm going to speak for him right now. He does not want tomorrow's show. He does not want to see me tomorrow morning and know that the first thing that we're going to talk about is a potential Suns loss. He doesn't want it. You don't want it. Producer Corey doesn't want it. I don't want it. I don't want to do this. Here, I don't want to play this sounder.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
I don't want to play that and then say that the Suns lost last night to the Pacers. I don't want to do that. I want to play that sounder and talk about football. It is a Football Friday. I want to make picks. I want to continue our stretch 5-1, 12-6 in our last 3 weeks. I want to continue to preview the Cardinals. I want to discuss all of the great action that we're going to get all weekend long. That's what I want to do tomorrow. I want to maybe briefly mention a Suns victory. I do not want to play that sounder that I just played and discuss the Suns losing at home to the Pacers. I don't want to do it. The Suns are 6.5-point favorites at home. Take care of business, beat Indiana, move on to Detroit, take care of business against them, and set yourself up very nicely for what is a difficult stretch the rest of the season. Do not allow me to start tomorrow's show further proving the point that this team is no different than they were a year ago. Don't allow me the platform to continue that conversation. Just take care of business. You should beat the Pacers. Yeah, I know you played the Jazz and Trailblazers close, but you got out of there with a victory. You need to do the same thing against Indiana, and you need to do the same thing against Detroit. Do not allow me to start this show, to start this program tomorrow angry. I don't want to do it. It's a Friday. It's the last show of the week. We're off next week for Christmas. I don't want to be angry tomorrow. I want it to be a joyous show to end the week. I want to have fun talking about football. I want to have fun talking about the Phoenix Suns beating the Indiana Pacers. I don't want to come in here and talk about them losing. I don't want to come in here and talk about another injury. I don't want to do that. You certainly don't want to hear it. And you certainly don't want to watch this team lose tonight to the Pacers. You want to see a team that takes care of business against the teams they're supposed to take care of business against, and then set themselves up for a nice, challenging stretch where they can maybe turn this car around. They can turn this narrative around. That's what you want, because it's what I want. I want a team that isn't in a three-way tie for the 6th seed and could very easily be the 8th seed or the 9th seed in the Western Conference. I want to see a team, and we saw this at the start of the year, that's up there battling with Oklahoma City, with Memphis, to be one of the top teams in the Western Conference. That's what I want. That's what you want. You don't want to do this conversation every single time something happens with the Phoenix Suns. You don't want to continually discuss, are they, aren't they, will they, won't they? You don't want to do that, because I don't want to do that. So take care of business. Make this 2-game winning streak, double it. Make it a 4-game winning streak, and then start a stretch against Denver, against Dallas, against Golden State, against Memphis to end your 2024 season. Go into that on a 4-game winning streak and end this year on a good note to set up for a really solid 2025. That's what they need to do. That journey starts tonight.